This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. Today, we have in the studio Medina Krevans, the Corporate Development Associate at mHUB. Welcome, Medina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about mHUB? What is it and how did it originate?
mHUB is a physical product innovation center right here in Chicago. And what we do is we are convening the entire manufacturing industry around developing new products, creating product innovation and manufacturing innovation right here in Chicago. It opened up its doors on March 2nd, 2017, so we're just a little over a year old. And it started from a need in the Chicagoland and greater Midwestern area to spur product innovation, to spur manufacturing, and came out of an organization called World Business Chicago. They met, they convened some small, medium manufacturers. They convened them to discuss what can we do to reinvigorate the economy in this way. And they kind of came up with this idea that we needed some sort of innovation center around physical products here in Chicago.
So World Business Chicago, is that Chicago department, a City of Chicago department?
It's a public-private partnership. So it is in partnership with the City of Chicago and the mayor's office. It works with public companies as well. And the whole goal is to revitalize Chicago's economies. They work to bring businesses here and support businesses that already exist here as well.
When we attended the mHUB barbecue, we noticed that there was this wall of a lot of corporate sponsors. So are those sponsors a part of the private aspect of the World Business Chicago?
Some of those sponsors do also work with World Business Chicago, but a lot of them are specific to mHUB as well. So, and then on that wall also that you saw, there were a lot of corporate sponsors, but we also have quite a few of our member companies. So we have about 200 companies working out of the space that are smaller startups.
Yes.
And those are companies that we're helping launch. And then on the other side, we have larger companies who are looking to plug into that innovation ecosystem. Those are the ones, those larger corporate sponsors that you saw on the wall as well.
So how many years, let's say how many months then, that mHUB was in business before it started getting corporate sponsors, or were there corporate sponsors from the very beginning?
So there were sponsors from the very beginning. We needed that community support in order to get started. We're set up as a not-for-profit, and so we needed the industry to kind of say, this is a need that we need to fill, and they had to support it in order for us to get it off the ground. So we had quite a few of our sponsors from the very beginning.
Such as?
So Marmon is one of our big sponsors, Aero Electronics, Molex, some of the banks, the Chase Foundation gave us some money to help us get off the ground. So a lot of those larger sponsors, they've been there from the very beginning saying, this is a need, we're going to help fill it.
Oh, nice. So I did notice the Chase. I didn't know that it was Chase Foundation. Do they help fund some of the member businesses then when funding becomes necessary?
I don't know of any corporate sponsors funding any of the businesses inside. They help out with a lot of other ways. So all of our sponsors, they try to tie into the member companies through mentorship, through providing components, through giving them industry access. And so they support businesses in that way.
As a not-for-profit, how did mHUB get its initial funding?
All of the initial funding for mHUB came from this corporate sponsorship as well as 2 government grants. But we are completely privately funded, and so we have no public dollars from the city or state.
Those 2 public grants, are you able to tell us what they were so that are they available to other entities?
Yeah, so the grants, they were through different cycles. Their information about them is available online, but the major one that we got an I-6 grant from the EDA originally.
How did you come to work at mHUB, Medina?
So I studied manufacturing and design engineering in school. I was pretty aware of the ecosystem here in Chicago. I went to school at Northwestern.
So what was your major to be studying?
It's called manufacturing and design engineering. It's a specific program at Northwestern, and it focuses on a lot of the same things that mHUB does, right? This physical product design, how to manufacture it well. and how to bring a business and a product through all stages. So I was pretty plugged in to kind of the ecosystem here in Chicago in that realm. And I went and I was working at a furniture company, but had always kind of tracked the system, the ecosystem here. I saw mHUB, what it was doing, and in about January of this year, I reached out and applied for a job because I just thought this is where I need to be. It's so aligned with what I do, what I'm passionate about, and where I see the world going. And so I reached out and ended up getting the job. And so
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to work at a place where you really believe in the mission of it. So
I saw that Northwestern is a member business. Is a member business at mHUB. So what does Northwestern do? And were you a part of that project with Northwestern and mHUB before you started working at mHUB?
So I was not a part of that relationship at all. But what they do is they have a membership there so that students can use the resources at mHUB. So Northwestern has a big variety of resources for students in terms of prototyping, in terms of mentorship, networking, all of that. But when students graduate, they lose a lot of these resources. So right now, what mHUB is used is kind of as a space for teams and startups to land if they still need those prototyping resources, because we have about $5 million of prototyping equipment in the space. And so they can come, they can work out of mHUB, work at the desks, work out of the labs, and access all the classes and mentorship.
So a lot of the students that from Northwestern that work there are actually graduates of Northwestern that need that space at mHUB to continue their business initiatives?
Yeah, they're either graduated or about to graduate or working there for the summer. So people who just don't have access to Northwestern's current resources right now.
Are there other schools that use mHUB in the same way?
Yeah, so UIC has a presence there, as does IIT. And then we have quite a few other Midwestern schools that teams have landed there after university. So we have good representation from all sorts of schools, but different levels of participation.
So what business industries access mHUB's services?
So every business that's in there is commercializing a physical product. The types of products range, but a lot of Internet of Things, connected devices, communication devices, medical devices, and consumer products, I would say, are the big sectors there. Mm-hmm. So they come in, we have all the resources for them to make their first product, but also their first 200 to 500 products. So we have electronics manufacturing capabilities, we have plastics, we have wood shop, a metal shop. So you can kind of get your first 100 products made. So you can do a market test and a physical test of them as well.
So by 200 to 500 products, you mean one business could keep on working out of mHUB to create product after product until the product sells, or it could be a variety of products and all of them sell, and they could continue using the mHUB space to design their products?
It could be both. It just depends on how the business model works. At a certain point, it's not cost effective to be making all of your products out of the space once you're making thousands of them. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on what type of product you have and what your business model is. But it's a good setup if you're making, a smaller run of something.
Is there any average number of products that a business makes at mHUB, or is it so all over the place that it's hard to tell?
I think that's a hard number to get. I would say most of what I see being done is people making about 50 or so of an item at a time. I would say that seems to be my impression there.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM at 10 a.m. We have in the studio Medina Krevans, Corporate Development Associate at mHUB, and we will continue the interview. So, Medina, can you describe several of the project rooms at mHUB? Which corporations sponsored the creation of the rooms and which industries use those rooms? Because we were on the tour and it was fascinating.
Yeah, so a lot of our sponsors are more technical sponsors. And so they want, their components to be there. They want a space and branding in the most relevant location for their business type. So, for example, Molex, they make connectors, and so they sponsor our electronics lab. And there's a really, really cool sign that you have to kind of come check and visit out that right up above the electronics lab. For example, UPS, one of our sponsors, they sponsor the shipping and packaging area because that's relevant to them. Aero Electronics is a distributor of electronics components. They sponsor the back catalog room of all the different components that people can take. So different sponsors sponsor different areas that are most relevant to their business model and their value add from mHUB.
So you mentioned UPS and shipping and packing products. So some entrepreneurs are developing different ways of packaging that they can profit from?
With any physical product that you're making, you need to send it out.
Right.
You need to get it to your customers somehow. And so we partner with UPS because they provide mentorship, guidance, and good rates for our members to ship things from us.
Oh, I see.
So it's not about shipping innovation. It's just saying I have 50 of something and they need to get here in this time frame. How do I ship it? And UPS helps us out with that.
So how is mHUB different from other business incubators?
I mean, I think we're different because of the vast resources we have, all dedicated to a specific principle. So our equipment capability and our setup for both prototyping and small production runs is really unparalleled.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't just have the physical equipment side, we also have the networking, courses, programming, and mentorship, all dedicated to physical products as well. All the resources are all dedicated to physical product manufacturing, and that's not true of really any center anywhere I know of.
By a small product run, you mean about how small? Is there any number that you could give us? Like what would constitute a small product run?
Oh, I would say probably 200 units.
Is mHUB a business incubator or is it a business accelerator? What is the difference?
I think that's a hard question. A lot of these terms get thrown out a lot, and there's different definitions. I would say so. An accelerator is normally a program you go in for 2 to 3 months and really high touch, dedicated resources. You know, everybody's kind of going along at the same stage. High touch means everybody kind of does the same courses. They have to do the same activities. They have a dedicated checklist they have to get through. Kind of a broad generalization there, but that's a lot of what an accelerator looks like. An incubator, a lot of the time, you come in and the company or the incubator takes a percentage stake in the companies that they're working in. So they take equity in the companies. mHUB doesn't really operate as either of those. That's why we call it kind of an innovation center and a convening of the industry, because we have all the programming, we have all these classes, all of these resources, but everybody can kind of choose what works for them. And we're using the backing of the industry to help support the companies as opposed to taking an equity stake in them.
But if something that business a member develops and maybe the sponsors or some other company like what they see, could they take an equity stake? Could the member business license the product, and has that happened?
They could absolutely do that. That is all in between. mHUB does not broker those exchanges. That's all just happens organically. So there have definitely been products in mHUB that have been funded by different companies or by different venture capitals, but mHUB does not broker those exchanges.
Do any of the corporate sponsors dedicate money for research to the member businesses?
Not that I know of right now, no. They'll work with the businesses if they see opportunity for application of the products in their space, but no money dedicated for that, I don't believe.
Can you give us a few examples of mHUB successes?
For the member companies?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think a good group of companies to talk about are Amber and Amper. Both of them were born out of Midwestern universities, Amber out of U of I and Amper out of Northwestern. Both of them went to another program out of the Bay Area called the HACS Accelerator. And that's what I was talking about, an accelerator, right? Where it's 2 to 3 months, very high touch. They both landed in San Francisco working there. But because one of them is working in an agriculture space and one of them is working in a legacy manufacturing space, they moved their businesses back here to Chicago to grow out of mHUB. And both are very successful right now. They're implementing in different farms and manufacturing plants all around the state. Our building a customer base and are growing really rapidly. So those are two companies that are great. And it's a big success for mHUB because one of our goals is to revitalize manufacturing here in the Chicagoland region. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're bringing businesses back here to grow.
Wonderful. What did you mean by legacy manufacturing space?
Oh, so they work with manufacturing plants that have older equipment that's maybe not necessarily digitized for this modern industrial revolution. And so a lot of times when you are wanting to do data analytics or get this new automated equipment, you have to shut down the entire plant for a day, 2 days, 3 days, invest a ton of capital. With their device, you just clip it right onto the machinery itself, and it transmits and does data analytics. You can tell cycle time, downtime, and how the machines are running and operating.
Okay, so what about, were there any business members that did not fully utilize mHUB's services, and did this affect the members' outcome?
None of the resources are forced on any of the members. I talked about high touch with the accelerators. We kind of have low touch resources. So that means that we don't force any of the classes. We don't force any of the mentorship. So we always hope that the members will use it, but not everything is relevant for everyone.
Right.
So people kind of pick and choose what works for them, but people will use what they will use.
I noticed that some memberships are for certain business hours of the day, and then some memberships are for 24-hour access. So could you explain a little bit of that to our listeners?
Yeah, so if for the offices and for the reserve desks, which is a more dedicated space membership, you do have 24-hour access to the space for co-working. But for the shop, it's always within business hours, just because there's safety and there's safety for both the machines and the individuals using them. For basic membership, you just work during business hours, but our hours are 8 to 10 on weekdays and 10 to 8 on weekends. So we're still open quite a bit of the time.
Do you have any advice for students and our listeners about starting a business then?
I think making sure that you've done your market research and making sure that there's a real need. The more people that need your item and the more of a vacuum there is in that space, the more likely it is to be successful. So first, before you even go anywhere, not just saying, oh, this is a cool idea, making sure, oh, this is going to solve a problem that really needs to be solved. And then once you have your product or your business idea or anything like that, really learning how to sell it. I think that you can have the most amazing invention or business plan or anything in the world, but if you do not know how to sell and you are not the biggest advocate for yourself and for your business, it's not going to go anywhere. And so learning how to sell, I think, is a very important thing that a lot of early stage entrepreneurs might not learn how to do soon enough.
Does mHUB offer any resources for learning how to better sell a product?
Yes, yeah, we do. We have, we had an event the other week that was speed selling of your product. We have mentors that are good in that realm, both saying, oh, how do you sell it online and doing online marketing, but also, practicing how to sell just one-on-one to people.
So where did those mentors come from?
So our mentors are coordinated by our programming department. People can apply to be mentors, and we try to pick a very diverse group. So we want people from the manufacturing space, we want people from a marketing space, from a legal and patent space, financing, all of that. We try to have a really diverse group so that our members can kind of pick and choose what works for them.
Fantastic. At what point does a business need services that are offered by mHUB, would you say?
I would say the best stage to kind of come into mHUB is when you have a product idea and kind of some sketches, some early stage ideas. Maybe you've done a little bit of tinkering with it, and you're there to make your first prototype to about your 200, 300th item. That is kind of a really ideal stage for businesses because that's when you can take advantage of most of the resources. But I think there's also, on the flip side, if you're a large established company, it's also a really good time to become a part of mHUB because you can then access these talent, this innovative resources, and you can bring your employees through to kind of inject that entrepreneurship and innovation spirit into your company. So I think there's a lot of right stages to enter mHUB because we've put together a really diverse set of resources there.
When you said 200th item, did you mean like the 200th prototype, or did you mean a 200 number production run?
I would say like 200 production runs. So basically when you're making like 200 of your item at a time. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any employment or internship opportunities for students at mHUB? Because I think a lot of our students would be very interested. As a matter of fact, I was introduced by a fellow student who learned about mHUB in the last 6 months.
So we do have, as far as mHUB staff goes, we have positions open a lot on the website, which definitely can be checked out, mhubchicago.com. Our internship program primarily runs during the summer, but we have interns for almost every department, and that's great. But also we have 200 startups working out of the space, and all of them have internship needs or staff needs. And so those are also listed through a portal on our website as well. And that's a really great way to access the space.
So some of these internships are paid and some are unpaid?
Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm. Depends on which organization it is.
Okay. Well, Medina, we're so glad to have had you with us talking a little bit about mHUB. It's a fantastic organization, and we look forward to its continued success. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.